An international summit is being organized in the presence of world leaders in Spain, and the US president himself is coming as the chief guest. But in the middle of this summit, he is suddenly get attacked, and the events that happen after that will make your head spin. To know the answers to all these questions, how this attack happened and who did this, you have to watch the entire video. I was talking about the deadly action movie Vantage Point, released in 2008. This movie, with steamy action and a timeline twisted like a tornado, is a must-watch for everyone. So, without further ado, let's start today's movie explanation. At the beginning of the movie, we see the scene of the city of Salamanca, Spain. A huge anti-terrorism summit is being held in this city, in a complex called Plaza Mayan, under the leadership of American President Henry Ashton. Thousands of people have gathered there on the occasion of this summit. CNN journalists start their news covers even before the conference begins. It was seen that CNN journalist Rex Brooks was giving directions on this matter from the news desk. She was also giving instructions to a reporter named Angie, along with several cameramen. Shortly after the conference began, the president arrived at the plaza, and Brooks and his cameramen were asked to focus on the president. The president naturally went to start his speech. But as soon as he started his speech, a terrible incident occurred in front of the live cameras. The president himself was shot twice in the chest. Brooks and the rest of the journalists were shocked when they saw this scene on camera live. After the president was shot, a huge explosion occurred next to the plaza. Brooks controlled herself and asked her cameramen to report the current situation. When everyone pointed their cameras at the stage, a man was suddenly seen running towards the stage. But at that moment, Secret Service agents stopped him and removed him from there. On the other hand, Brooks asked his reporter Angie to brief him on the current situation. Although the journalist Angie Brooks was shocked by the suddenness of the incident, she controlled herself and said that someone had shot the president. In addition, a terrible explosion had also occurred near the stage a little while ago. Before Angie could finish her words, another larger explosion occurred. This time, Angie herself fell to the ground in this explosion. Brooks did not know what to do when she saw her wounded body from the news desk. In addition, many CNN cameramen also lost their lives in this explosion. Meanwhile, before the start of this conference, the president's security was in charge of the Secret Service team, whose main member was Thomas Berner. He himself was shot during the attack on the president a few months ago and saved the president. After returning to work this time, Burns, like the other members, was busy providing security to the president that day. He also sat with him in the president's car and continued to provide security to him. While going to the conference stage, Burns saw a man hiding his hand inside his coat. And upon seeing this, he immediately stopped his gaze and saw that it was nothing more than a small pack of cigarettes. However, after the president took the stage, everything continued as normal. Then the mayor of the city finished his speech and invited him to give a speech. In the meantime, Burns noticed that there were several empty buildings around them, and from the window of one of the buildings, he saw the curtain moving repeatedly. Seeing this, he immediately reported this to another agent, who checked the window and saw that it was not there, but the curtain was moving in the wind of the fan. But a little later, the real incident happened. 2 shots were fired at the president from a window of one of those empty buildings. Instantly, the entire place was in a state of panic. Meanwhile, at this very moment, Burns saw a man approaching the stage and jumped on him and stopped him. This man, named Endrick, kept telling him repeatedly that he was a police officer and the mayor's bodyguard. So he ran to the stage to protect the mayor. But although Burns did not believe him, the other agents believed him after seeing Endrick's ID card. They then took him away from Burns. Then the other Secret Service agents quickly arranged to take the president to the hospital, and Burns and others started working to find the shooter. Meanwhile, Burns told his partner Taylor that he saw a flash of light from the 2nd floor of the building in front. Hearing his words, Taylor went up to the 2nd floor of the building to find the shooter. Meanwhile, Barnes is watching his video clips from a cameraman. Suddenly, he sees something in the video that makes him very shocked. The scene was so terrible that he quickly runs forward. But shortly after that, there is another huge explosion, and everything is destroyed in this explosion. This was basically the explosion that was broadcast live on CNN. Barnes was knocked to the side by the impact of this explosion, and for a while he was completely blinded by his eyes for a while. When Burns have managed himself from the explosion, there is a huge rubble spread around in front of his eyes. Many injured people are screaming all around, and many are dead there. Some are even on fire. I mean, in a word, a horrible situation. Barnes somehow sees ahead that one of his colleagues is lying there with serious injuries. He screams for medical help, but it is too late. After the explosion, he quickly entered the CNN van and asked them to play the full video record of the whole incident. On the other hand, another colleague of Burns, Holden, started chasing Enrique again. While Burns was watching the footage recorded by CNN, Taylor called and said that he had probably found the shooter. But Burns was not paying attention to him. He saw something in his footage, and his eyebrows furrowed. And because of this, he was very surprised and started running towards the crush zone. Meanwhile, after Agent Holden chased Enrique also started moving his feet back and forth in the crush zone. After running through many houses, he finally managed to escape by jumping from the second floor of a house. On the other hand, while running, he saw his girlfriend Veronica sitting on the front seat of an ambulance. Now, before the event started, Enrique was asked to meet with Veronica. She asked him to bring a bag, which he also brought. At the post where no one thought it necessary to check him, because he was a security person. Then, while bringing the bag, he saw that Veronica was talking to another person. When he approached them, he asked her about the man. Veronica replied that this man was not that close to her. Then, Enrique handed her the bag that she had asked him to bring. Then, when the ceremony began, he said goodbye to her and started performing his duties. But suddenly, when the president was shot, he was caught by Secret Service agents while trying to save the mayor. In the meantime, Veronica suddenly appeared. She had thrown her bag under the stage. And immediately, he realized that there might be something in this bag. Also, no one at the checkpost has checked him properly because he was a police officer. The second explosion occurred after Veronica threw the bag under the stage. That is, there is some connection to this incident with Veronica. This time, we see the whole incident from another person's point of view. An amateur filmmaker named Howard Lewis was covering this international summit with his camera. While he was recording the video, he met another person named Sam. After a while, another little girl named Anna also met him. This time, everything was going well after the ceremony started. But suddenly, when the president was shot, Lewis started recording everything on his camera. Now, while recording this video, Burns came and saw something on his camera, and was shocked. And when Enrique realized that Veronica had tricked him into bringing a bomb, he wanted to warn everyone. In fact, after receiving Veronica's bag, he did not open it. And if he had opened it, he might have seen that there was a bomb inside the bag. However, when Burns went to watch the video footage, Enrique escaped from the hands of the Secret Service people and started running away. And the agents, seeing him running away, chased him. Meanwhile, Lewis, who was recording the video, got busy looking for Anna after the explosion. He found Anna, but his mother was nowhere to be seen. Leaving her with a police officer, Luis started filming again. This time, he started filming Enrique's escape. Then, after seeing the Secret Service agents, he ran a long way while filming, and then gasped. On the other hand, Enrique also ran away and ended up on a highway. He then chased Enrique for a while and tried to stop him. But Enrique saw a police car and got into it. And just then, someone from the front shot him several times, and he fell to the ground. This is exactly the scene that Luis was filming when he saw Anna in the middle of the road. Anna was dangerously walking back and forth in the middle of the road looking for her mother. Seeing this, Luis quickly ran towards her, because an ambulance was approaching her very quickly at that time. However, we will find out later whether he was able to save Anna at the last moment or not. Meanwhile, at this stage of the story, something is revealed that will blow your mind. When President Ashton was preparing to go to this conference with his Secret Service director, the NSA spies received a secret information. This information said that some terrorists named Bernard Suarez were planning to kill the president. A few months ago, US spies had destroyed some of their hideouts and killed several innocent companions. Now they are plotting to kill the president to take revenge on him. At first, the president doesn't want to pay much attention to this news. But later, after communicating with the directors of the NS and the Secret Service, he decides to send a body double instead of going to the conference himself, which means that the gunshots were heard in this shootout. That figure was a fake person who looks exactly like the president, with makeup on. This move by the US intelligence was just mind-boggling. However, the president was not at all happy about sending his body double. So he watched the conference closely from a nearby building. And inside the plaza, he was very surprised to see Burns, because a few months ago, this Burns himself had saved his life from being shot. Now, the president was not at all happy about giving him a job elsewhere. Meanwhile, the body double who was giving a speech on the stage was suddenly shot, and the president and his companions were terrified after seeing this scene. Immediately, the director of CIA wanted to carry out an airstrike on the attackers. They had already learned that they had a hideout somewhere in Morocco. But since Morocco was a friendly country of America, the president was absolutely not willing to carry out an airstrike on them. So this time too, he did not allow the directors to do so under any circumstances. Just then, another director told him since he was dead on paper, so they can take this order from the vice president if they wanted. But the president asked them to announce that he was not dead yet, but had been injured and admitted to the hospital. At that moment, in the middle of this conversation, that large explosion occurred inside the plaza. The building where the president was here also shook violently due to the impact of this explosion. Immediately, all the directors wanted to remove him from there. However, before they do that, the president wants to inform his wife that he is still alive and safe. However, at that moment, a masked man enters and shoots all the president's companions. Then he kidnaps the president from there. Now, after this incident, we go back to the flashback of this whole story. Another shocking secret will be revealed in this flashback. The man named Sam, who came to get Frank with Lewis, was actually the main mastermind of this incident, Suarez. This Suarez is so clever that he had predicted in advance that the NSA agents would send his body double to the plaza instead of sending the real president. That is, the Secret Service and NSA had somehow caught up with his plan. So first, he had fitted a remote control fan in a building next to his plaza. After turning this remote control fan and moving the curtain, Burns' attention shifted to it. At this opportunity, Suarez turned another remote control rifle and shot the president's body double twice in a row. On the other hand, the one he had ordered to kill the real president was named Javier. This Javier was seen by Enrique talking to his girlfriend Veronica. That means, you understand, this Veronica was also involved in this plan with other terrorists. In addition, Suarez kidnapped Xavier's brother and blackmailed him into doing this job. And Veronica was his main partner in this job. So Xavier was also talking to her about the same thing, and at that time Enrique saw them and thought of something else. Meanwhile, Suarez himself was also communicating with Xavier at every moment through a microphone and speaker. The hotel where the US president was staying had a security guard in Suarez's team. That man gave Xavier a card to take him to the president's room. Now, after using this card, he slowly moved towards the president's room. However, he finished off everyone he could see on the way. In this way, he reached the president's room and killed all the directors. He was doing all this just to free his brother. But on the other hand, Suarez gave Veronica the order to kill Xavier's brother, who was in captivity. That is, their plan was that after killing Xavier's brother, they would also remove him after the work was done. But when Veronica's hand started shaking while shooting at him, Suarez finished him off himself. Meanwhile, the person who gave Xavier the card to enter the building was already ready to carry out a suicide bombing at the behest of Suarez. Then, as soon as Suarez entered the building, he committed a suicide bombing and killed himself, killing many people along the way. Remember, this was the first explosion. On the other hand, after Veronica threw the bag with the bomb on the stage, Suarez detonated the bomb with his remote control device and got into an ambulance with Veronica disguised as a medical worker. He had already taken control of the Secret Service control room with his device. With the help of this device, he called the agents and sent some agents to another direction. Thus, when Xavier killed some Secret Service agents with a knife on the way to enter the building, then he shot some more agents. Then, after reaching the president's room, he opened the door with explosives and shot and killed all the president's companions one by one. Then he kidnapped the president and took him to the elevator. Meanwhile, Suarez and Veronica arrived first in the ambulance, calling Suarez to treat the injuries of an agent and another person. At this point, Veronica came up with a stretcher and took the elevator up. Xavier was already waiting for her with the president. After he handed over the president to Veronica's hand, they knocked him unconscious and laid him on the stretcher. Xavier then pointed a gun at the president and threatened to kill him if she did not free his brother immediately. But Veronica countered by threatening that if he did something like that, he would never see his brother's face again in his life. Once this mission was over, her brother would return to him in good health. After hearing this, Xavier released her. She started going down with the president. Meanwhile, spreading clothes over the unconscious president on the stretcher, she pretended to bring a seriously injured person. And Suarez also hurriedly lifted the stretcher into the ambulance and pretended to go to the hospital. Then, After the ambulance was given the star, a triumphant smile appeared on both of their faces. However, in the middle of the road, another of their followers got into their car. Meanwhile, at this point, we get to know the answer to the big question. You must have wondered what Burns saw on CNN's television screen that even surprised them. In fact, when Taylor asked him to see what was inside the building, and went inside, he actually did not go inside to search. Instead, he went to get the remote control rifle fitted by Suarez. That means Taylor is also a big part of this conspiracy. He tried to hide his identity by changing into a police uniform, but Burns recognized him on CNN's camera. So before he could quickly run outside, Xavier arrived in a police car, and Taylor got in it. This means that the two criminals planned to escape together. But when Burns saw him, he also parked a car in the middle of the road and identified himself to its owner of the car. Then he took that car and started following them. On the other hand, while Suarez and Veronica were driving the president in an ambulance, Enrique saw them. Suarez saw him and said, "This guy was supposed to be dead by now. We can't have any deadwood." After hearing this, when the man behind him asked, "Who are in this deadwood list?" Veronica finished him off. This means that the man was also a deadwood. Meanwhile, a fierce race began between Burns and Taylor, where he drove dangerously through moving cars and came forward. Taylor was terrified when he saw Burns in his car line. He realizes that once Burns knows the truth, he will never let go of him. The chase that ensues between them is one of the most thrilling scenes I have ever seen in my life. During this chase, they both start crashing into each other's cars. Also, when they come to the turnings, they flip the car in a deadly style and spin it. After a while, they spin the car 360 degrees. That is, their chase continues. This action scene was, in a word, the best scene in this movie. In this way, despite crashing into many cars repeatedly, none of them seemed to stop. However, in the end, Burns crashes into a large car, and his car overturns and is crushed. Just then, Taylor thinks that Burns might be dead here. When he starts moving forward in his great joy, Enrique comes and stands in front of them. Now seeing him, Xavier gets out of the car, points a gun straight at him, and repeatedly asks about his brother. Because Suarez told him that, Enrique would deliver his brother after the work was done, which was a blatant lie, because they had already finished off his brother. Meanwhile, when Enrique did not answer his words, Xavier shot him a few times in anger. Then, while he was dying, he kept asking about his brother. But Enrique said that he did not know anything about it. Meanwhile, even though Burns' car was terribly crushed, how could he survive like a miracle? He quickly got out of the car and started running forward. Seeing Burns, Taylor has started the car. And Xavier also saw Burns coming, and then shot at Burns and tried to get into the car. And after being shot, Burns also started shooting at the car from behind. Xavier was still asking Taylor about his brother repeatedly, but Taylor shot him this time in the end. And thus, poor Xavier died from the bullets. But Taylor was not spared either. As Burns continued to fire at him, he was knocked out of his hands and into the flyover from the corner. Burns then came and pulled him out of the car, half dead. Now he asks him why he did this. In response, Taylor tells him that he can't stop this war even if he wants to. And saying this, he also dies. On the other hand, Suarez and Veronica were still taking the president in the ambulance. However, the president, who was unconscious, suddenly regained his consciousness and picked up a rod in his hand. And with that rod, he attacked Veronica. At that time, when Veronica went to handle him, Suarez suddenly saw Anna in the middle of the road. Anna came to the middle of the road at that time, looking for her mother. You already know that Anna came to the middle of the road, looking for her mother. And whether Luis was able to save her at the last moment, this question remained to be answered. It is in this scene that it is revealed that Luis finally saved Anna with a fatal jump in heroic style. However, while saving her, Suarez also lost the control of the car while sliding it on a rush speed. This time, the ambulance also fell into the road in a very dangerous way. Seeing this, Burns went to open the door and first saw Veronica dead. But after that, he was completely shocked to see the president here. The president was still alive, and he could recognize Burns. But Suarez, who was lying injured next to him, went to shoot him again as a last resort. But Burns shot him dead at the end. Then he found the president unharmed and finally contacted other members of the Secret Service and arranged to take him to the hospital. In just a few months, he saved the president's life twice. So the president also expressed his gratitude to him again. Finally, after taking him to the hospital, he was given first aid and recovered. However, none of these incidents were published in the media. The only thing that was published was that the president had recovered after being injured in the terrorist attack. And with this announcement, this deadly action movie also ends here. So let me know how you liked the movie. And thank you very much for watching till the end. See you in the next deadly action movie explanation. So until then, everyone stays well and healthy.